The timing will be good. Meanwhile,
no rubbing noses here.
That's right. Meanwhile, we are. Oh, we got to the Mishnah. 70a. Ayin Amud Aleph. Okay. 78. So continuing our plans for education. So Me'emasai Chayev. When is this exactly? When is this wayward son, this Ben Sorer Umura? When is he? He has to fulfill a number of requirements. He has to check off before he's going to get stoned, and they're very hard to check off. So the Mishnah says he has to eat certain things and a certain amount of them. Tartim or basar. Tartim is a certain measure. I don't know exactly how much it is. A certain measurement of meat. The yishta chati lug yayin, half a lug of yayin.
It's got to be Italian.
Right. Yayin italki. Yeah, Italian. So we're gonna see everything here is going to be all the food and drink that he eats is going to be things that are causing him to go after it more and more and more. So it has to be a good Italian wine. That's right. Rabbi Yossi argues mana basar. So a mana is twice the amount of a tartimar. The lug yayin is twice the amount of half a lug of yayin. That's the first thing. How much you have to eat. Second thing, if you would eat this in a chaburas mitzvah, let's say there was a chaburas mitzvah. If you're eating it together in some kind of, a mitzvah gathering, or achal be'iber achodesh. This is interesting when they would literally impregnate the month. But what it means when they made the month 30 days, so the night before, they would go up into the attic and they would have some kind of feast. And they wanted everyone to know about it. Everyone should know that today is really day 30 and tomorrow is day 1. So if somehow he got up in that group of people and he was eating with them too, so then that's also not, even if he eats the amount of wine and meat, that's not going to work, because those are things we're going to see in the Gemara. Those are things that you're involved in a mitzvah. That's not going to draw you towards bad activity, negative behavior. Achol meiser sheni b'Yerushalayim. So we know that you people, your money or your crops, you have to bring up to Yerushalayim on years 3 and 6. Sorry, on years 1, 2, 4, and 5. Meiser Sheni is 1, 2, 4, and 5 of the 7-year Shemitah cycle. If you can't bring all your crops, so you can put it onto a coin, and then you can bring the coin up to Yerushalayim. With the coin, then you can buy meat and wine in Yerushalayim and eat it there. So if he does that, he takes his coin and goes up to Yerushalayim and buys the requisite amount, he's still not going to be chayav. The Gemara is going through each every on the next stop. So fine. Achal nevelos v'trefos shkatzim v'ramatzim. So a nevela is just a carcass, right? So it's not kosher. Trefa, there's many signs of an animal that renders it not kosher. And then if it's
abominable creatures or crawling creatures,
right? Whatever that means, right? Yeah. So trefa says so the trefa is that which is one of its vital limbs. It'll die within the year. So it's a kosher animal, but it's not. We're not allowed to eat it. Shkatzim v'ramatzim. So either the creepy crawlies, or the bump, or the creepy creepies. Yeah. It sounds like some people we don't know. So shkatzim, those are the bugs and the insects, things like that. You're not allowed to eat. So now, if he, it could be referring to also birds, I believe. Might be also certain kinds of small birds. If you eat that amount of meat from those things, so that's also not going to be enough. Skipping the parentheses. Achal davar shu mitzvah. Vidavar shu avera. We'll see what that means too. You're eating something which is a mitzvah, or something which is an avera. The Gemara doesn't go through what that means. Or achal kol meichel v'lo achal basar. You ate a lot of food, but you didn't eat the meat, but it was food that drew you, just like meat, satiates a person. Shasa kol ma, you drank all the liquids that also might have some intoxicating factors, but just not wine. The Gemara's going through that also. Those things do not render you ein or not ben soramor. You have to have specifically achiyocha basar v'shtiyayin, wine and meat. So now, Shinema, how do I know? It says zolel v'soveya. So the words in the Torah are zolel v'soveya. Now, how do you know that zolel v'soveya refers to meat and wine? Says the Gemara, I don't have a proof for this, but I have a zeichel davar. I have something which is like it's a nice hint to this. Shenamar alti b'sove yayin and b'zole basar lamo. So the verse in Mishlei, Yeah, yeah. In Mishlei says that one should not be as besove yayin. So you see that sove goes on yayin, so, gluttonous with wine, and zole basar, and you shouldn't be super indulged in meat. So I think Rashi is bothered by this. Is not this is a proof. The exact words in the Chumash zol v'saveya is referred to in Mishlei as wine and meat. So Rashi says, yeah, but it could be referring to many other things. You don't know that it's only referring to wine and meat. Maybe it just shows it as an example, so that's why it's not a direct proof. But you definitely see that the words as all said can refer to wine and meat. So that's how you know that in the Torah when it says Zol v'Saveya, it's specifically referring to wine and meat, and not, we'll see hopefully later, any other kinds of food or drinks. Okay. Rabbi Dovid Gleizer. What is a tartimar basar? What's a tartimar? So how much is tartimar? Ela mitok shekafel Rabbi Yossi b'yayin nimtza kofel av b'basar v'nimtza tartimar chatzi mana. So I have no idea how much a tartimar is, but look at Rabbi Yossi in the Mishnah. When it came to wine, he doubled the amount of the first opinion. So that was chatzi log. He said a log. So it must be that when he said a mana for the meat, he was doubling also, which then tells us that a tartimar is half of a mana. So how much exactly is a mana? I'm not sure. Either it's enough for 2 meals or it's enough for more than that. I don't remember. Okay. So, but yeah, that's a tartimar is half of a mana. Half of a mana of meat. Okay. Amr of Chanan bar Molda Amr of Huna Eno Chayva Chigak Basar Bezol V'Yochal Yain Bezol V'Yishta. It's interesting. He's only obligated when he buys it for cheap, cheap meat and cheap wine. But if it's expensive, so if it's expensive, he's not going to. I mean, how's he going to get all the stuff? We're going to see. He has to steal money. He has to steal money and buy the meat. So, to steal $10 and buy the cheap alcohol is one thing. To steal money and buy the $5 million bottle, it's never going to happen. So it's only once he steals cheap meat and cheap wine. V'yishta, how do I know? D'chsiv zolel v'saveh. The word zolel is interesting. It's also a lashon of zol, is cheap. Even in Israel nowadays, zol is lower prices. The word mizalzel is to disgrace somebody. It's the same root of the word zol. When you treat someone cheaply, that's how you disgrace them. Yeah, kavod, honoring somebody from the word kaved, is heavy. When you treat someone like he's heavy, he's important, then okay, fine. Interesting. He has to eat raw meat. We'll see if it means really raw meat. And you have to eat wine in its beginning, I guess, right after it either got fermented or unfermented, or right in the beginning.
Before you dilute it.
Before you dilute it. Okay, yeah, good. So says it really, is that true? We have the exact opposite statement of Rabbi and Rav Yosef. If you have it totally raw, so then you're not going to be ben saramora. So must be Amar Ravina yain chai. What does it mean when it says wine? That's chai. That's, so to speak, raw. It means mazig velo mazig. You diluted a little bit, but not diluted it enough. Basar chai. What does raw meat mean? It means bashil velo bashil. It means it was cooked but not fully cooked. Now that's kibasar kiba the achli ganvi. That is like the thieves. The thieves eat things. They go out. They're on the run. So they don't have time to let it cook. So they have to eat it very fast. So things that take a long time to cook, it's not going to pull him, to go steal and then buy. You have to be things that are like, thief-like. So, the wine, what did you say?
Just braised.
It's braised, right.
Back on the outside.
It's right. Even in the laws of Shabbos, there's a certain temperature that food can be cooked by where you don't have to put it where you don't have to cover the knobs and put down aluminum foil. It's called Kemichael Ben Drusai. So who was Ben Drusai? A thief. Oh. So he would eat food that's either 1/3 or 1/2 cooked. That's how the thieves eat. I think you're changing professions. No. Okay. You eat meat that's very salty, or you drink wine that's right from the press, meaning it's still fermenting, no? Yain Megito is right in the beginning.
Yeah.
Hasn't fermented yet. Eino nasa ben sormor. You're not going to become a ben sormor because this food doesn't pull you. It doesn't draw you after. It has to pull you to do more, to want to get more, to want to buy more. It's meat that's been salted for a long time, or wine that's, that's that hasn't fully fermented yet is not going to attract the guy. Tanan Hassam, the Mishnah says that Erev Tisha B'Av is interesting. Lo yochel adam shnei tavshilin v'lo yochel basar. So Erev Tisha B'Av, that last meal of the day before Tisha B'Av, you're not supposed to eat two cooked foods. V'lo yochel basar, you should not eat meat. V'lo yishte yain, and you should not drink wine. Okay. Vitana, and it says, it taught about this Mishnah, aval ochel hu basar maliach v'shos yain megito. You could eat meat that's salty. It's not really meat, right? And wine that hasn't really fermented yet is not really wine. So that thing is not going to be those enjoyable foods that are going to draw a person. So now, basar maliach ad kama, how many days has to be salted until it's until you're allowed to eat it, because it's not really classified as meat anymore. Ad kama amar bichanina bar kahana kol zman shu kishlamim. As long as it's like a shlamim. A shlamim is you have 2 days and 1 night to eat the korban shlamim, a certain peace offering that the Kohen gets part and the owner gets part of it. So that takes 2 days and 1 night. So when meat is in its 2 days and 1 night stage, so then it's still enough that it gladdens the person's heart, and therefore you're not allowed to eat it Erev Tisha B'Av. Erev Tisha B'Av is an added stage of mourning. So because in the first 2 days, if it's only been salted for less than 2 days, so it's still going to gladden you, therefore it's prohibited. After it's been salted for 2 days, it's not going to cause you that same simcha. Okay, and yain megito, how much is wine when it's being fermented? So that's going to be the yain megito ad kama kol zman shehu toses. As long it is fermenting, so that's also it's not really delicious wine. It's also not going to cause you happiness. The Hatanya, but the Brisa says yain toses ein bo mishum gilui. Wine that's fermenting has no problem of leaving it uncovered, and then maybe the snake venom will go into it, and therefore you can't drink it the next morning. So the kama tasisaso, and how long is this fermenting that we're worried about? Shlosh yamim, 3 days. Those 3 days, that's when you can't drink it because it's not really, edible so much, not really tasty. Okay. So those are all the halachas by Tisha B'Av. Erev Tisha B'Av, salty meat, you have up until 2 days that is still going to gladden your heart. Therefore, you cannot eat it. After that, you could eat it. And you have wine that is in the first 3 days of fermenting. It's really not really like wine-like. And therefore, you're allowed to drink that. After that, you're not allowed to drink it. That's going to make you happy. So what about by a ben Saramur? How long does he have? Hachamai. What about over here? If he eats meat that's been salted for 2 days, is that a problem? Is that not a problem? If he drinks wine that's been fermented for less than 3 days, more than 3 days, is that a problem or it's not a problem? So Hasam Yishum Simchahu. Erev Tisha B'Av, the whole problem is being happy. You can't be in a state of happiness. So Kol Zman Shehu Kishlamim Nami is Simcha. As long as the meat is like a korban, I use it as an example. As long as it's in those 2 days, if it hasn't been salted yet for 2 days, it'll still cause you happiness. But Hacha by a ben Sarmar, we're not looking for happiness. We're looking Hacha Mishum Shukehu. We're looking for things that are going to pull him to want to eat more and steal more. So ubechol shehu lo mimshach, anything that's going to not attract him anymore. So it could be, even if it hasn't been salted for 2 full days, but even if it's salted a little bit, he doesn't want that anymore. So for him, it could be much less than 2 days. That's still any kind of salted meat is not going to attract him to want to steal and eat more meat. And wine, the yain ad mem yom, any wine up to 40 days of when it's being fermented, is if he has some of that, he's not going to be attracted to want to go steal and drink more. Yeah. Okay. Now we're going to have 20 lines all about wine. So Purim is coming, and Pesach. So Amar of Chanan, a lot of Agadat about wine needs to be explained, more deeply. But here we go. So Amar of Chanan lo niver yain ba'olam ela lenachem avelim. Wine was only created in the world to console the mourners. U'lishalim schar l'rishayim, and to give reward to the wicked. How do I know? Tinu sheichar la'oved v'yayin l'mari nefesh. Give wine to the wicked, and give wine to the ones that are of bitter soul. The wine is there to console the mourners and to get rid of the wicked people. You give him wine, he's gonna end up getting drunk. He'll do something crazy. So that's how you get him out of here. Yeah, and the reason why it's for the mourners, it's because it lowers their agony, it lowers their pain. It's helpful in that way. Okay. Amr of Yitzchak, Ma'idechsiv, what does this mean? It says in Mishlei, Al Teire Yain Kis Adin. So how does it translate it? Don't be scared or don't look. Don't be scared of the wine.
Oh, do not look.
Do not look. That's what I thought. Don't look at the wine. Why? Because it makes you red. Okay, so what does that mean? Let's see. So, Al Teire Yain Kis Adin. Al Teire Yain Shema Adin Pneim Shorashayim. Don't look at the wine that reddens the face of the wicked, ba'olam hazeh, and whitens umalbin penehem la'olam haba. So that's I assume it means don't look. It means don't look and don't drink. I don't know if it just means don't look. Yeah, Rashi says don't look at it and then be drawn after it, right? Red wine. Because you see wine, I mean, don't be drawn after wine. I mean, a little bit in proportion is fine, but this is really meant for the Rishayim. Rava Amar Al Teri Yain Kis Adam Al Teri Yain Shachriso Dam. The wine, don't be drawn after the wine because the ending is death. The ending is bloodshed. Okay. Rav Kahana Ramiksiv Tirash. So it says the word Tirash, Vikarina and Tirosh. So it refers to wine without the vav, that extra vav, but you read it with the vav, Tirosh. What does that mean? Zacha Nasarosh, if you merit, so then you can become a head. Lo Zacha Nasarash, if you're not merited, if you don't merit, so then you can become a poor person. Meaning with a little bit of wine, it sounds like it can do good for you, but with a lot of wine, Rashi says if you know how to guard yourself from the wine, then it sounds like it can really wisen up your heart. He says it can make you happy and it can make you get a little more insight, but if you have too much of it, then you will become poor. What is that?
Rashi.
Oh, Rashi wine. Very good. Rava Ramik Sev Yismach V'Karin and Yisamach. So you read it happy, or you can read it, it'll gladden you or gladden others. Zacha Mesamcho. If you merit, it'll gladden you. Lo Zacha. Then Mishamamuhu. It'll make you bare and desolate. V'Hainu Amarava Chamra V'Reichani Pikchen. Wine and what's Reichani? Some kind of good smell. Scent, so they can sounds like they can make you wise. They can help you, give you certain insight. It opens up a little bit to become a wise person. Okay. Amr of Amram says of Amram, Breder of Shimon Barabba, Amr of Chanina Ma'idech Siv. Okay, a cryptic verse in Mishlei. So it says, "Lemi oi," to who is oi, to who is what's oi, oi.
Who cries?
Yeah.
Who cries whoa?
Who cries woe? Lemi avoy. Similar. Lemi madanim. To whom are all the delicacies? Lemi siach. Siach is what of speech. To whose pain? Pain. Lemi pitzaim. To who are the wounds? Chinam lemi chakalichos einayim. The longing of the eyes. And then at the end of the verse. Yeah. Who is that? It's Lama'achar Malayayin, the pasuk says, the people who seem to go after the wine. Okay, so now let's see what it says. So Lama'achar Malayayin, Lebayim Lachkor Mi Mesach. They come and they examine the Mesach. What's the Mesach? The what? Good wine. Okay. They say in Eretz Yisrael, they say in the West, Hayikra. So Man the Darish Leimi Reisha L'Seifa Midrash L'Seifa L'Reisha Midrash. So you can read the verse from forward to back or back to forward, and they're both going to be true. So you read it from the beginning to the end. It sounds like it's talking about somebody who's longing after wine, and so those people, woe to them who are doing, unfortunate for them. To who are you feel bad for? The ones who just long after wine, and the other way too. If you people that long after wine, so they're going to end up being, woe onto them, and end up doing bad things to them. They'll get wounds, and they'll have to say woe because they, They might become mourners. They might become wicked. Okay. Darish Uver Glila. What's the name of the person? Yeah. Yud Gimel Vav and Nemr behind. There was 13 Vavs that were mentioned regarding wine. And here we go to the Noach story after he came out of the very hard story to understand what exactly was happening, but after he came out of the ark. So he had some grapes, grape seeds, he planted, he drank wine, and then not such good things happened. So Vayichal Noach Ish Adam Avita Karen. He went and he planted himself a vineyard. Vayesh min hayayin. It's all good. Vayichal Noach Ish Adama Vayita Karen. Vayesh min hayayin. Vayishachar Vayisaka Basoch Olo. He went. He got drunk, and he was uncovered in his tent. Vayar Cham Aviknan Cham, the father of Canaan, one of Noach's children, as ever he saw his nakedness. Vayigel Sha'achav, he told his two brothers. V'chotz Vayikach Shem V'Yafas, he brought his other two brothers. Es HaSimla Vayisima Al Shchem, they put the shirt on his shoulder. Shneim Vayelchu Achronis, sounds like they walked with their back turned to him, that they shouldn't see his nakedness. Vayichasus Ervas Avim, and they covered up his nakedness. Upneihem the Gomer, and then Vayigatz Noach. Noach woke up. Miyeno Vayedas Asher Asalo. Something happened. He now knew what something happened to him. So Asher Asalo Benoach that a small son, young son, did to him. So this is very hard to understand what this means. Rav Shmuel Chad Amar, that his son castrated him. Sarso the Chad Amar Ravo. Another one sounds like he sodomized him. Yeah. So now Mandamar Sarso Mitosha kill Kol Biravi. So Kilo Biravi. The one that castrated him, that makes sense, because you prevented him from having a fourth son. So he was cursed. The fourth generation is going to be cursed that you're not going to have children. That's Mida Keneged Mida. That makes sense. You prevented him. Therefore, Hashem punished you with the exact thing that you prevented him. You got punished too. Umanda Maravo, but the one that said he sodomized him. So Gamar Vayar. He learns that from the fact that Vayar Ksiv Hacha Vayar Cham Avi Kanan. Cham saw the nakedness of his father as Ervas Aviv. Uksiv Hassam Vayar so Shchem ben Chomer. By Shchem ben Chomer also, it's talking about sodomization. So therefore, you learn one from the other. So now, Bishmal Amandam Sar so Mishum Haki Kilo B'Revi. If you say he castrated him, it makes sense why he was cursed. The fourth generation, you're not going to have. You won't have the fourth generation. El Amandam Ravo, but he sodomized him. What kind of curses? And therefore, you're not going to have a fourth generation. That's not like what's one have to do with the other. Ma'ishna Revi, just nilte behedya. Just why don't you just curse him explicitly? Why are you cursing the fourth generation? What's that doing anything? So hava hahave. So no, the one that holds he sodomized him also agrees that he castrated him, and therefore that curse for the fourth generation would still be intact. I guess there wasn't any specific curse for the sodomizing. Okay. V'yichal Noach ish adama v'yita karen amar of chista amar of ukva. Noach went and he started off a man of the ground, a man of the field, and he planted a vineyard. So Amar Rav Chista Amar Mokva Amri La Amar Mokva Amar Rav Zakai. Amar Lekadosh Baruch Hashem tells Noach. Amar Lekadosh Baruch Noach. Lo hayalecha lelamed me'adam harishon. I mean, you should have learned from Adam Harishon. So we're going to see there's four opinions what the fruit of the tree of knowledge was. So, the Maral talks about that they each represent different traits. It's not was it an apple, was it orange? They all represent something much deeper. And the question was, which one of those traits was causing him to do what he did? Either way. So according to this opinion, though, Adam Rishon, it was grapes. You should have learned from him. Look what happened to him, and you didn't learn from him. So Shalo Garl Elayayin, wine caused them to do the error. Command Amar Oso Elan, Sha'achman Adam Rishon, Geffen Haya. This opinion holds that the fruit of the tree was geffen. It was grapes. Yeah, the Tanya of Meir Omer Oso Elan Sha'ach Adam Rishon, Imenu Geffen Haya. It was a grapevine. There was grapes on the tree. And you're supposed to learn from people before you to know what not to do, and you didn't do that. Turn the page. Nothing brings such terrible things to a person, just like wine does. So Rabbi Yehuda Omer Chita Haya. Now we're going to go through these opinions. Rabbi Yehuda says it was wheat. It wasn't. It was actually wheat off the tree. A child doesn't know how to say, Abba or Ima, a certain level of knowledge until he's able to eat certain kind of wheat, grains. So therefore, this is the tree of knowledge. So therefore, it makes sense that it was also that there was wheat on the tree. Rabbi Nechemia Omer Te'ena, no, it was a fig. How do I know? Because Hashem then clothed them. They were naked. Then He clothed them with what? Clothing made out of figs. So therefore, the thing which you got cursed in, you will be repaired with, just like the Nachash, the snake in the desert with the Jews. It ended up killing a bunch of Jews. And how did you stop the plague? By looking at it. The thing that caused your death also caused your healing. Yeah. Sometimes the biggest blessings are in the things that are hard. So Shinamar waits for Allah to Aina. He sewn for him a fig garment, a garment out of figs. Okay. Now we're going to go through Shlomo Melech's mother is Bathsheba. And Shlomo was involved in a little bit too much worldly matters for his mother to tolerate. So she gave it to him. Divrei Lemo Melech Masa Asher Yisarto Imo. So his mother gave him mussar. She rebuked him. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, what does the verse mean? Mishum Rishon ben Yochai. Melamed shekafaso. She sounds like she tied him. Ala Amad onto a beam. She tied, now she sat him down, right? And she said, "Va'amrlo." She said, the verse says, "Ma bari uma bari bitni uma bar nidri uma bari." So now, Ma bari, my son. What's to my son? The son of my womb, the son of my vows. What's my son? So now, Hakol Yodim, everyone knows your father, King David, David Melech, Shavicha Yirei Shemayim Havi. Everyone knows your father has tremendous fear of heaven. So, but what are they going to say now? You're involved in so many world, too much with your wives and your drinks and all these things. They're going to say, who caused you this? Your mother, not your father. So Akshav Yom Ima Garmelo, terrible. Bathsheba, big tzaddikas are going to say is that your mother caused you all these things that are not good. Uma bar bitni, and you, the son of my womb. What does that mean? Said Kol Nashim shel beis avicha. All the wives of your father, when they were pregnant, they had one thing in mind. Kevan shemis abros shuv einon roas pnei melech. That they wanted when they're pregnant. They were davening that sorry. That's the next line. Kevan shemis abros. They never saw the king again. Meaning, when they were pregnant, they didn't go and have relations with King David. However, me Bathsheba ani dechakti v'nichnasti. Brought down different gemaras that having relations while the woman's pregnant causes a certain healthy for the it's healthy for the fetus. So a certain level of mezuras and maluban, I don't know, certain whiteness, certain alacrity in the So that's that. Uma bar nidri. What's the bar nidri? The son of the vows. Kol nashman shabes avicha hayu nodros. They all were saying, Hashem, give me a son that's going to do what? It's going to be able to be a king. Yeli ben Hagun lemalchus. Mi Bathsheba, I had a different plan. Vanina darti v'amarti Yeheli ben Zariz, who's a very full of alacrity, full of what's the word? Zariz, alacrity, robust, umamula b'Torah. He should be full with Torah knowledge. The Hagun lenevius, and fit to be a prophet. That's interesting. Why a prophet? I'm wondering that to be a prophet, you have to have a very, very high level of character traits. So maybe that's what she wanted. He should be very, very perfected in his. So she says, look, and now you're involved in all these worldly things. I'm the one that davened for you. You should be a Talmud Chacham. You should be a Torah scholar. And now you're involved in these things. Okay. Next verse of 2 verses later. Al lemalachim lemoel, al lemalachim shesuyayin ula rosnim e shechar. Okay. So what does that mean? So Amrolo, she said to Bathsheba said to Shlomo, Malacha Eitzalach, what are you doing with the other kings? Shosim yayin, they're drinking wine, umishtakrim, and they're getting drunk. Why are you hanging out with them? You're gonna hang out with it's a bad group to hang out with, the kings. The Omrim, and they say, Lama lanu kel. What do we need God for? So these kings you're hanging out with are what do you need God for? Why are you hanging out with them? Don't hang out with them. Ula rosnim e shechar. So what's Ula Ros? The word Raz can mean secrets. Misha Kol Razi Olam Giluyim Lo Yishta Yain V'Yishtaker. The one who all the secrets of the world. You Shlomo, you're the wisest of all men, right? You and all the secrets are given to you, and you're going and drinking wine and getting drunk. Not befitting to who you are. Iked Amri, another opinion says Misha Kol. Another version, how to interpret the verse. Misha Kol Rosne Olam Mashkim Lepischo. All the Rosne Olam, meaning all the kings are gathering to go see you. Mashkim lepischo. They're gathering to your entrance, to your door. Yishta yain v'yishtaker. You drink wine and get drunk. Not befitting. Right? We're not focusing on how bad wine is. We're focusing on how great you are. You're so great. What are you getting involved in these lowly matters? So, Amar of Yitzchak, Minayin shechazer Shlomo v'hodolima. How do you know that Shlomo actually stopped all of his drinking, and he actually went and admitted to his mother? Dichsiv, it says, Ki bar anochi me'ish v'lo binas adam li. So what does it mean? Ki bar anochi me'ish. How do they translate bar anochi?
I'm a foolish man.
Oh, I'm a foolish man, me'ish mi Noach. I learned to not do this from Noach. So velo binas adam li, and I didn't. I don't have that wisdom of a person. Meaning, it's referring to Adam Arisha. Meaning, he understood that Adam and Noach both fell in terms of through wine, according to that opinion that the tree was a grape, and therefore I realized this is not for me. I can't. I want to fall this way also. So you see, he realized the negative impact wine could have, and he stopped. Okay. The Mishnah said that if a ben soromor eats the requisite amount of wine and meat, but he does it in a chaburas mitzvah, in a gathering for a mitzvah, then he's not going to become a ben soromor. So what's a gathering of a mitzvah? Amar Biabo, Eino chayiv achi yochel bechabura shekulo srikin. He's only going to be obligated, liable, if he eats with a group of people that are srikin. Rashi says it means empty, totally empty people. Why? Because they will attract you to keep doing empty things. Once again, you have to be drawn to what you're doing to keep doing it. So that's what Rabbi Abo says. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? Our Mishnah says, Anantan, achal b'chaburas mitzvah in nasa ben soromor. As long as you're involved in a mitzvah, you're fine. So time of the mitzvah, we don't care who's there. It could be everyone there is an empty level person who loves to drink. But since it's a mitzvah gathering, it sounds like you're good to go. The time of the mitzvah, but halav mitzvah. If it wasn't a mitzvah, afal gav delav kulos rikin, and if it wasn't a mitzvah, even if not every single guy was an empty person who's doing the same as you, only let's say a few of the guys were those empty people, you would still be obligated. It's only because it's a mitzvah. But if it wasn't a mitzvah, even if you have a few of them that are that are empty people, you're still going to be liable. So how does that do it with Rabbi Abo? Rabbi Abo says they all have to be srikin, empty people. So says the Gemara, no, the afal gav the kulo srikin, even though they're all empty people. However, cave in the mitzvah ka'asek lo mimshak. Amazing thing. You can have a room full of people. They're all totally different than you. They're all involved in stealing meat and wine and being gluttonous. But since you're involved in a mitzvah, you're not going to be as drawn after them as if you would not be involved in a mitzvah. Therefore, you won't be liable as a ben soror umora. Okay. Aval achal be'iber chodesh. Achal be'iber chodesh. So sounds like they had a special meal where they would, the night of the 30th, that they want people to know, today's day 30, we made it a 30-day month. Tomorrow is going to be day 1. Yeah. Okay. Lememra, is that to say the basar v'yayin must like, yes, he's eating wine and he's drinking wine and eating meat at this meal that they're trying to let everybody know that it's Rosh Chodesh tomorrow. He says, how do you get meat and wine over there? L'meimer the basar v'yayin musku. See, I'm wondering how he got up there in the first place. Like, who let him in? But okay, the Gemara wants to know how we got wine and meat. V'hatanya ain't olam la'elo b'pas. You only bring their bread, dagan, grains, v'kitnius, legumes, beans, bilvad. That's it. Oh, that's only food at this gathering. So hakamash shmalan afal gav the ein olam la'elo pas v'kitnius v'ihu asak basar v'yayin v'achal kaven the mitzvah ka'asak lo mimshach. You're right. People there didn't bring wine and meat. They only brought breads and grains and beans. However, the novelty is, even though he brought wine and meat that attracts a person to, do bad behavior, since he's still in a group that's involved in a mitzvah gathering, therefore he's not going to be drawn to then go steal and buy more meat and drink more wine. Okay, so now that we at the Kiddush, that's right. That's for the Kiddush committee to answer. Call Mrs. Cyber later. Tanu Rabbanan ain't olam be'ibra chodesh pagas me'asar b'nei adam. So there are no less than 10 people go up for this Rosh Chodesh gathering. The ain't ola ela bepas dagan v'kinias, and you only bring up there the bread, grain, and the beans. The ain't ola ela or ibru, you only go that night. The ain't ola biyom, but you don't go up in the daytime. The ain't ola biyom ela belayla. You only go at nighttime. Why that's true? Not sure. That's I guess it's the night after. It's the night after they've already decided. Let's say why. Nope. But now we're gonna have a question. Someone snuck up early. The Hatanya in Elabiyom. It said, yeah, it says you only go. The Brisa says ain't Elabiyom. You only go in the daytime, not at nighttime. So which one is it? Go early and enter. Go early and leave. Why? You're going to go in the daytime. People are coming back from work, right, before it gets dark outside, and they're going to see you going up to the attic and down from the attic. They're going to hear the hustle and bustle, and they're going to realize that, this is a Rosh Chodesh gathering, and therefore today's day 30, tomorrow's going to be day 1. And so to enhance publicity about the event, you can go early. Okay. You're eating Meiser Sheni. So he took his coin with a bunch of, he redeemed his fruits onto his coin, brought the coin to Yerushalayim. With the coin, he bought meat and he bought wine and he drank the requisite amount, and he's not going to be liable. Why? So everyone in Yerushalayim is buying meat and wine with their Meiser Sheni money. Mm-hmm. So therefore, he's not doing anything out of the ordinary. He's doing normal things, and therefore he won't be drawn. Interesting. When you're the one that stands out, you're drawn to keep doing it, right? Mm-hmm. Once the class clown starts making jokes and everyone laughs, he stands out now. If everyone starts making, he has to find something new to do, right? To stand out. Right. So this guy's not standing out, so therefore it's not going to pull him as much to keep going. Interesting. So if he eats the same amount of meat, except he eats it from a carcass or a treif, a kosher animal that died with his from one of his vital organs, or something that's it didn't die through shchita, it died through other ways. So or shkatzim v'ramasim, or shkatzim v'ramasim, or these creepy crawlies,
abominable
creatures. So Amarava achal basar oaf. If you eat chicken, meat of the bird, chicken, so schnitzel's not going to do it. So it sounds like only nevelos for treifos, these things that are not kosher, don't render you a ben soramora. But if it was hatahorin, if it was pure, meaning if it was kosher, then even chicken would nanasa ben soramora. Why not? We said no. Kitna nami masnisin le hashlam. What it meant in the Mishnah was that if you ate a bunch of this food, but you didn't have the exact amount yet, and you finished off the amount, I guess the other way around, Rashi says, you had really a lot of wine and a lot of regular meat, but you were missing a certain amount. You're lacking a kazayas and all those amounts, and then you filled that in with the other animals, you're still not going to be obligated, even though most of your meat and your wine was from things that would make you liable to be a ben soramora, but you have to have the whole amount. Finishing off is not going to do it. Chicken won't do it. Yeah. Yeah. What time is it? Okay. Achal davar shu mitzvah v'davar v'dvar avera. Mitzvahs averas. Those. So what does that mean? Dvar mitzvah tanchume avelim. If you eat when you're consoling the mourners, right? So if you eat there the amount of wine or the amount of meat, if you drink the amount of wine and eat the amount of meat, since you're involved in a mitzvah, so that you're not going to be liable. Okay, I was bothered by this also. It already told us in the Mishnah, if you're involved in a mitzvah, that that's not going to make you liable. But here Rashi says, since it's only of rabbinic ordinance to go console the mourners, even though I believe the Rambam counts it under the category of a be'aflu kamocha. So consoling mourners, visiting the sick, puts it all under loving your fellow like yourself. That and giving him a nice death. So yeah. So that's Dvar Mitzvah. What's Dvar Avera? Dvar Avera is a Tainus Tzibur. Tainus Tzibur let's say it was a fast day, a public fast day, and you went and ate, so that's not going to make you liable. So says the Gemara, the time of my, what do you mean? The rabbi said no eating today. It's 17th of Tammuz, right? Tisha B'Av, you can't eat it. He went and he ate a whole pound of meat and bottles of wine. Why is he not a ben Sora Morer? Who cares? Because it's counterintuitive. Since he violated a commandment, therefore he's not going to be liable as a ben Sora Morer. Why not? Very interesting. The Gemara says, "Ma'ay Amar Kra, Einenu Shomea Bikolenu, Bikolenu Velo Bikolo Shel Makom." So two interesting things here. First of all, he has to not listen to his parents. It's a specific thing. He didn't listen to his parents. Something unique about parents and their authority over the children, which even if he didn't do like the rabbi said, too bad. He does the exact same act, and the rabbi said you can't do it, and he doesn't listen. No, he's not going to be liable. Parents say don't do it, doesn't listen, he will be liable. That's one thing. Another interesting thing is that it calls as lo bekolo shel makom. You have to not listen to your parents and not to the voice of the place first by Hashem. So even though we're talking about rabbinic things that are rabbinic ordinances, these are rabbinic things, but the Gemara calls it that you didn't listen to the voice of Hashem, which once again Hashem gave a mitzvah to listen to the rabbis. So it's interesting that we refer to the rabbis as the voice of Hashem. Okay, so achol. Okay, let's try. He had all the food but you didn't have meat. You had all the drinks, but you didn't have wine. What's that referring to? There's some kind of food, a fig cake from the town of Keilis, which apparently can intoxicate you a little bit. Honey and milk, which also draws you after them. Doesn't matter. You have to have specifically wine and meat. If you had a fig from Keilis, a fig cake from Keilis, or you drink honey, honey or milk, meaning a Kohen went in to do the temple service. Since those things do intoxicate you, you're still prohibited from doing the temple service after you had one of those things to eat or to drink. So you would have thought the same should apply to a ben Sora Morer, and the answer is that it does not apply. There's just a repetition of what we just said. Okay, let's do quickly. Taner Rabbanan, same thing as before. Same as our mission. So you have to have wine and you have to have meat, as the verse says in Mishlei, that you have to be a zola b'soveya, which refers to in Mishlei wine and meat. Okay. Who's this?